everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today I'm doing a currently reading to say hi, check in, tell you what I have most recently read, what I'm currently reading, what I think I'm going to read next. So let's just get started with what I have most recently completed, which was a short little novella called The Forest God by Jamie Lackey. So this is a fantasy novella where we're following three main characters. One is a young lord, one is an apprentice witch, and one is the forest god, who the forest god is continually reborn into the body of a different forest creature, and this time it has been reborn into the body of a hare. And at the beginning of the story, the lord injures the hare, and the apprentice witch takes it in order to heal it and take care of it, and then that's kind of what brings the three of them together and starts the story off. But I'm not going to say much more about it because it's very short. It's only like 85 pages or something, so I don't want to like spoil what the story is about, but I really enjoyed it. And one of the things that I was also excited about is that I read this as an ebook. I got it on Scribd, and I usually do not read ebooks. Like, I'm usually pretty strictly like physical books or audiobooks. Ebooks really just don't work for me most of the time. But one of the things I'm kind of working on this year is that I really want to try and get into ebooks. I don't think it's going to ever be like a preferred format for me, but I would like to be able to sometimes read ebooks because sometimes that would be useful for, you know, different reasons. If there's like a book I can only get as an ebook, or maybe I don't want to buy it and I can get the ebook through my library, whatever. So this is the first ebook that I have like successfully completed, so I'm very excited about that. What I'm trying to do is sort of ease myself into it by reading either like little novellas or shorter books, so it's not like a huge commitment in an ebook, but this one was a success and I enjoyed it. Then onto the books that I am currently reading. The physical book that I am like most actively reading right now is Treasure at the Heart of the Tanglewood by Meredith Ann Pierce. And this one I picked up because I finished The Forest God and I really enjoyed it, and I wanted to keep reading it really, and I really was enjoying, like, you know, it was in a forest setting and there was the apprentice witch and, you know, she was healing the forest creatures, and I love that kind of thing. And, you know, it was such a short novella that I just wanted more of that kind of thing, so I picked this up, which is kind of in a similar vein. So in this, we're following our main character, Hannah, who lives in the forest, and she can talk to the different, like, forest creatures. She has a badger and some little like baby foxes and I think a magpie that are all her friends, and they talk to her. And the people of the nearby village come to her for remedies, but they're very afraid of coming into the forest, and she doesn't really understand why because she lives there and feels totally safe, but they're very apprehensive about it. And then I think she discovers that there is something that is actually like trapping her in the forest without her knowledge, and something that is scaring the villagers that she had been unaware of. And then I think that she confronts this thing, and that kind of helps her to grow. I think that she kind of has she goes through like transformations, because it starts out calling her Brown Hannah, and then she is Green Hannah, and then Golden Hannah, and then Russet Hannah. And so I think those are kind of signifying her character's growth as she kind of takes on more throughout the story. I'm not really sure. I'm not very far into it yet. It's only like 250 pages and I'm about 50 pages in, but I am enjoying it so far. I like the foresty setting. She's talking to the, you know, woodland creatures, and one of them is a badger, so I love that. And I'm expecting that I should be able to finish this one before the end of the month. Then the other physical book that I am reading is The Forever Sea by Joshua Philip Johnson. This is a new 2021 release that I have been very excited for, and I'm very glad that I have finally started it. But in this world, there is the forever sea, which is this endless sea of prairie grass, and the grass is so tall that no one really knows what is at the bottom of the grass, and some people think that it is actually like bottomless. And all of the people in this world live on like floating cities, and they have ships that like float above the grass and sail around to gather different kinds of grasses. But these ships are powered by like an interesting kind of magic that I really wasn't expecting. So they are powered by a fire at the center of the ship, but the fire is fueled by the bones of previous captains, and then the like structure, like the order that the bones are kind of structured in, kind of determine what kind of spell and like how fast or slow the ship is going. And then there's someone who is called a firekeeper on each ship who is kind of in charge of like ordering these bones, and they sing to the bones to like communicate with the fire. So that was just a really interesting kind of magic that I wasn't expecting going into this. I'm not very far into this yet. I think I'm also like 50 pages. Yeah, I'm like 50 pages into this one also, but this is a much longer book than Treasure at the Heart of the Tanglewood. But I think what happens in this is she finds out that her grandmother, who is the captain of a ship and has always been kind of eccentric and really obsessed with like what is at the bottom of the grass sea. She finds out that her grandmother has jumped off the side of her own ship, and everyone is saying that it was suicide, but Kindred doesn't believe that, and she knows that her grandmother was always like really obsessed with what was at the bottom of the grass sea, and so she thinks that her grandmother went to go and find out, and so she sets off to find her grandmother and find out what happened. So I haven't really gotten quite to that part yet, but I think that is where this is going, and I'm really liking the writing in this. It's very vivid, but I don't think I'm going to finish this one by the end of the month. This will probably be like one of the first things that I finish in March. And then the audiobook that I'm listening to right now is Conjuring Women by Afia Atakara. This is historical fiction with maybe a little bit of like magic or just implied magic in it, and this is set in the South in the United States, both before the Civil War and after the Civil War. And so we have kind of two timelines, but they're within the same person's life. So our main character is Rue, and so in the timeline that in this is called slavery time, which is before the Civil War, she is a child growing up with her mother as enslaved people on a plantation, and her mother is a healer, and so Rue learns a lot about healing from her mother. And then in the freedom timeline, which is after the Civil War, Rue is an adult. She's still living on the same plantation, and now she is the healer for the people who live there. And in that timeline, there is a sickness going around which is making people very paranoid, and then there also is a child who is born whose eyes are completely black, which some people see as a bad omen, and so people are getting like very agitated about this and starting to blame Rue for it. Yeah, and so far I'm really enjoying this. I started this a couple of months ago as a physical read, and then just decided there was something about it that I would like more as an audiobook. Even though I did like the writing in this, I think it's very well written, but I just felt like the audiobook would work better for me, and my audiobook hold from my library finally came in, so now I'm listening to it. And I really like the audiobook a lot, actually. I think it works really well for this story. I think the characters in this are really interesting. I think that Rue and her mother are both really interesting characters, so I'm enjoying that about this a lot. That was a weird sentence, but you get it. So I think I probably will finish this one before the end of the month. And then on to the books that I think I'm going to be reading next. I think my next physical read will probably be Places No One Knows by Brenna Jovanoff. This is a YA contemporary that I've been meaning to read for a very long time. I actually am going to be reading this for a particular like video concept that I'm going to be doing. I have to read this and another book for that video, but this is a contemporary fantasy that is following, I think, a girl who can walk into people's dreams, and then that's about all I know about it. But I'm really excited to give this one a try. And then the other physical read I might read next is Mother Ocean, Daughter Sea by Diana Marcellus. This is one that I just recently got, and I really don't know what to expect from it because I don't think I've ever seen someone talk about it before. I just found it on Thrift Books through like Thrift Books' recommendations. But I think the main character has healing magic. I think she's like the last of her kind, and then she gets like swept up into some larger like politics or something. I don't really know. I'm assuming there are going to be some kind of dragons because there are dragons on the cover. So that's about all I got, but I'm very excited for this one and I really hope I love it because I feel like I'm going to. And then the next audiobook that I will be listening to, I think, is going to be First Truth by Dawn Cook. This will be a reread for me. This was on my list of my top 6 books to reread in 2021 because I am trying to reread more books this year. So I'll link that video if you want to see what the other 5 books I want to reread this year are. And most of those I am planning to reread like physically, but this one I think I'm going to try it as an audiobook because I have access to an audiobook. But yeah, this is a fantasy. It's the beginning of a series, and in it our main character, I think, thinks that she might have magic, and so she is sent to the Hold, which is this place where there are the masters and the keepers, who are people who like have magic and teach magic. But when she gets there, she finds out that all of the masters and keepers have disappeared except for one of the keepers, who is real suspicious and probably has ulterior motives and might try to use her to his own ends. And so she has to like find out what happened to the other masters and keepers. But yeah, I remember enjoying this. I think this one's going to be a more like light, fun kind of fantasy, and I'm going to be trying it out as an audiobook. So that is all for my currently reading check-in. I would love to hear what you're reading right now. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye!